About 18 months ago, I was blissfully agnostic, blissfully unaware of anything really happening around me in terms of spirit. And I was a science writer, did a lot of technical training, worked at a small software company in Boulder, Colorado, doing sciencey type stuff. And in early January of 2014, I went out on a bike ride one Friday morning, and it was a beautiful day, sunny, 60 degrees, dry streets. Found myself hit by a truck and ended up on the hood of the truck, and eventually the truck kept driving, and I was drug underneath the truck for about 50 or so feet. Um, Turns out that I ended up with a lot of severe injuries. But during that time when I was struck by the truck, I noticed that my consciousness split off into two, which was a really odd thing for somebody who's a scientist. I never heard of anything like this before. And I was experiencing the accident both from underneath the truck in my body and somewhere outside myself, out in front of the truck, watching everything unfold from in front. Long story short, when the paramedics arrived and I came back together when they arrived, I sort of blew it off. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't want to think about it. It was too weird to think about. Scientists don't think about things like this. It doesn't make any sense. So because of the severity of the injuries, I was brought into a trauma center, and it turned out I needed surgery on my back to reconstruct my back. I'd had many broken bones in my back, and some vertebrae down in my lower back were completely shattered, and that needed to be reconstructed. So a couple days later, I was brought into surgery, and during surgery, my blood pressure tanked, my heart rate tanked, my breathing tanked. So basically, I started to die on the operating table. Very likely due from an unintentional overdose of anesthesia. I know that my body doesn't handle medicine very well, so that's probably what happened, and that's what the doctors think happened. It wasn't their fault. I just don't tolerate medication very well. But what happened was that I effectively died on the operating table for about 4 minutes. And during that time, I went off to a place that I've never experienced before. I've only heard vague stories about, having been an agnostic and an atheist most of my life. Didn't even believe in heaven until I was there. And when I was there, I was given basically months worth of information, a whole lifetime's worth of information to bring back to my life here on earth and to give it to everyone in the form of a book, really to help us all live a better life here on earth and to make things better, not only for ourselves and our own lives, but for the lives of everyone else. And so the book that I've just finished is really not written by me. It's written by heaven and the angels and whoever else worked through me. And it's written for all of you. And it's written for all of us, not just me, not just you, but everybody together. So this is my introduction to Awakenings from the Light, my new book, which will be available very soon. So I'll give you just a little bit of background. My family was Roman Catholic when I was a very young girl, yep. But they stopped going to church probably when I was 6 or 7 years old. So I was raised with that awareness, but I really didn't participate in it. And when I went off to college and got my science degrees, it didn't fit anymore. And a lot of stuff that happened in the Roman Catholic Church really turned me off. So I turned away, and I've been agnostic and atheist back and forth for, 20 some odd years or more. Mm-hmm. And still kept my mind open to other things. I practiced meditation. I liked, the Dalai Lama and Thich Nhat Hanh. But when I was in my accident, I was really an agnostic, right on the verge of being an atheist. I really didn't believe in anything.
Yeah.
You know, the agnosticism was kind of a nice way of saying, yeah, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So when I died in surgery, or when I overdosed in surgery on they overdosed me on
Okay, here's one
anesthesia.
question.
Uh-huh.
How long were you gone?
So it's a depending on where your time is measured from. So I was clinically in trouble, you know, medically in trouble for 3 to 4 minutes on the operating
Okay.
table.
That's forever.
It's forever over there apparently. And when I was in that experience of being near death, it felt like weeks or months. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't place a time on it. It was so long. I mean, it felt like I was away at summer school. You know,
Mm-hmm.
having been sent away to boarding school. But that not having, I think, a really strong religious foundation but having that strong scientific foundation was interesting because I was able to look around me when I was in, I'll call it heaven, for
Okay.
want of a better term. When I was in heaven, I was able to look at things a little bit more with more of a question on my mind because, you know, the person I met wasn't anyone I knew.
Mm-hmm.
She was this beautiful, silvery being with these kind of flowing, like linen-y type garments, but there wasn't anything about her that screamed angel.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't call herself anything. She didn't use a name, and she didn't say, I'm an angel. She just said, I'm a being here in this place. And I speak for many others besides myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we were to come at you in full force, you'd be overwhelmed. So
Yeah.
we're speaking through just me.
Mm-hmm.
And it allowed me, I think, to look at her more of as a teacher
Mm-hmm.
rather than, oh my gosh, it's an angel right here in front of me. I mean, it was an overwhelming experience, but I could relate to her a little bit more one-on-one that way, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It made more sense to me, and I was more open to what she had to say. If she would have shown up with, like, wings and, you know, the halo and towering over me, I think I would have been so overwhelmed. I don't think I would have been able
Yeah.
to understand what she was trying to tell me.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I found too is that an angel will show up in whatever form they need to show up such that you get what it is that you're supposed to get.
And that's what she told me. This form that I'm taking is for you.
Mm-hmm. What was some of the stuff or some of the substance of what they were giving you?
The teachings or the physical manifestation?
Well, no, let's talk about the teachings.
Yeah, that was I think totally surprised me that I thought I was just going to have a couple hours hanging out during surgery in this beautiful landscape. That's kind of what I expected. And then they started telling me stuff. And the bulk of it was how we have forgotten so many things when we've come to this planet as humans. And they want us to remember a lot of this stuff so that we can, like I've said with you earlier, maybe we can recreate some kind of heaven on earth, or so we can make our lives wonderful here and now. We don't have to wait until we die.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can create our own heavens here, even within our own lives. Even if the rest of the world is, you know, falling apart, we can at least create this heaven in our own lives. And that's what the bulk of their teachings to me were about, not only for myself, but I was asked to share this with the world as much as I could, because it's not just about me, it's about helping everybody. And so the first teaching was, you described that feeling of love. And I was totally immersed in that the whole time I was there, and that was the bulk of their teaching. Everything really centered around love, and it's not just, you know, love, romantic love, or love of, you know, our kids or our parents or our families. It's loving everybody as much as you can, and learning how to love people that you don't like or don't agree with, how difficult that is, but it's worth it, and the world needs it.
Mm-hmm.
Along with that was the teaching of gratitude, which is really the way they told me. Gratitude is really just another form of love. It's when you're grateful, like now I'm very grateful for my life. Well, that's telling our Creator, God, that I love Him for the life I've been given. So it's an expression of love. You know, when I'm grateful to a friend for helping me out, it's really that feeling of gratitude is an expression of love back to that person. So that's another main teaching, that they were very adamant about gratitude and love being kind of tied together like this. And then it expanded a little bit, so it's not just love of each other, but it's also love of our planet. Love of ourselves is a big thing, because what my guide told me and expressed to me was that we're in a lot of trouble because most of us don't love ourselves. It comes down to, if you don't love yourself, you can't really truly love anybody or anything else. So that was another piece of it, and really just how to interact with each other in ways that's loving and
that's
supportive.
in the book, right?
It's in the book.
Okay, all right.
It's there's a lot of how-tos in there. They gave me a lot of information on how to put those things into practice in my own life. Things that I still struggle with. It's, you know, it's not perfect. My life isn't perfect. I still read my own book and get stuff out of it, even though it's, you know, people say I wrote it. I didn't write it. It was really given to me. I put a little bit of my own
totally know what you're talking about there.
It's not my stuff. It's their stuff. And every time even when I edit it now, if the last time I edited it for to get printed up, I learn new things. Every time I read through it, I learn new things. So there's a lot in there about how just to improve our own lives, and then in working on our own lives, we can then gently influence those around us, and that's what it's about.
Yeah,
helping.
And, you know, one of the things about going back over what you've written over the years, because I do that every now and then, and it's like, oh my God, I didn't know I knew that.
Exactly. I'd write pieces of this book and then read them a week later. I don't even remember writing it, but it was, it all came out, and wow, it sounds really good. It sounds really intelligent. This definitely wasn't me, because I didn't know that information.
Yeah.
You know, that couldn't have come out of just me. So it was a real, I call it Heaven 101 when I was there for whatever amount of time, you know, during my surgery.
Good call.
Crammed a lot of information, and it's still taking me a long time to really even process it at a base level, not only integrate it in my life, but just process it at that basic level.
You know, let me ask